Hello, everybody. I just wanted to go over this worksheet with you. This awkward sentences handout is going to be the guideline for the revisions I want you to do for Essay 1. And then over the semester, I will introduce more grammatical things, and then we'll sort of combine them all. Okay, so now you have a draft done. I want you to take your time and thoroughly proofread that. Mostly right now, I want you to look for awkward sentences. Okay, and I want to read this over with you, and I will post the worksheet on our D2L page as well. And what I see as a professor a lot of the time, most of the time, are students who write awkward sentences and just like miss them because they don't go back and edit them carefully. So I want you to look at editing as a process. You've written a draft, you're going to get points for completing that draft. Now you have a week to look it over carefully, to sort of like obsess over every sentence. Okay, and that's what I want you to do now, is to think about every sentence and maybe edit a page at a time or even a paragraph at a time. Go in and do several different sittings when you're editing. Don't let it go to the night before. Every time you look at a paper with fresh eyes, you will do a better editing job. If you rush through it at the last moment, it might not be edited as well as you want it to be. And that's not because of any sort of lacking on your part. It's because people make mistakes when they rush. I spent the better part of 25 years helping students edit papers on the high school and college level. And I can tell you, if I sit down and have an editing session with a student and I point out some things to a student or say this sentence sounds awkward, and he or she and I work through that sentence together, the student knows how to fix it. Because we actually have, all of us, don't mean to get too philosophical, we all have innate ears, okay, for editing. We can pick up on it. If we hear the language spoken, as I will point out in this handout, proposes to you to read your sentences aloud. You will hear the change. You will make the fix. You will correct the wording. You will change the phrasing. You will do the things that you need to do to fix it, but you have to take the time to do it. That's why I view writing as a process. You've made a draft, you get credit for completing that draft only. I will not grade this draft. Now, I want you to do for the next week is to take your time and to edit each sentence carefully and looking and using this handout for this paper. And again, we'll expand on it more as we move forward in the semester. This awkward sentences thing is sort of a guideline for what I want you to look for. The key is to take your time. Maybe you received a graded paper from a teacher and a professor with awk in the margins and thought about, what does that mean? I don't blame you. Part of the problem is that is a general criticism, not a well-defined concept. Although it's a notation teachers and professors often use. And I will put that when I grade your papers on the Turnitin.com link. I will use awkward to point out to you something that needs to be reworded. Typically, it means that something was off about the sentence or phrase. Perhaps it was a little clumsy, or perhaps it was a little confusing. Something wasn't quite right. But the sentence probably felt okay to you, otherwise, you wouldn't have written it, right? Or even if you felt like something was quote unquote off about the sentence, you couldn't find a way to fix it. Awkward sentences are often sentences that get away from us. Maybe you can tell something was wrong, but can't quite figure out why. So if you hardly know what awkward means, how are you expected to fix the sentence? Let's look at some examples. Finding awkward sentences. The first step is finding an awkward sentence. The sentences below were all marked by professors or teachers as awkward. So let's see if we can figure out why. One, as far as I'm concerned, because of the fact that situation discrimination continues in the field of medicine, women have not at the present time achieved equality with men. The best teachers help each student become a better student, both academically and emotionally. College students have a lot of pressure on them being high achievers. Do these sentences sound right to you? When you read them aloud like I am, number one, very apparently does not sound right. It's wordy and choppy. Okay? Try reading them aloud and see if your opinion of the sentence changes. When we read these awkward sentences aloud, something sounds off about each of them. And so this is the first concept of editing for the first revision stage of our first paper, our first essay, as I want you to practice. Reading your writing aloud is the best way to find awkward sentences. An awkward sentence may not be grammatically incorrect. And you can usually understand what the writer is trying to say, but still there's something not quite right about it, which your ear can pick up better than your eye. Again, when you hear language and students hear language, they will make the fix. Okay? You will make the fix if you read it aloud slowly, a sentence at a time. Again, to remind you, do several different sessions of editing. Don't do it all at once. Break it up by a page and do 4 or 5 separate sittings for how many pages you have. Don't do it all at once. And then when you are in there, read it one sentence at a time and listen for the changes. You will catch these things. An awkward sentence may not be grammatically incorrect, and you can usually understand what the writer is trying to say, but still there's something not quite right about it, which your ear can pick up better than your eye. You know there's something wrong with these sentences, you may even know what it is, but it's sometimes difficult to come up with a solution for a sentence that's gotten away from us. Here's how you fix some awkward sentences. Look at each of the examples below, identify the problem with each of them, and give them a name. The first one, this sentence is marked awkward because it's wordy. There are too many unnecessary words and phrases, wordy words, in the sentence, and all of them are underlined. Phrases like, as far as I'm concerned, or all things considered, or at last but not least, clutter your writing and make it confusing and awkward. By writing the sentence more concisely, we can make it smoother. Because of continuing discrimination in medicine, women have not yet achieved equality with men. Okay, here's the second one. This sentence was marked awkward because it's repetitive. The word student is repeated twice. Okay, replacing with a different word will make it less awkward. The best teachers help each student to grow both academically and emotionally. I strongly suggest never use the same word twice in a sentence. Never use the same word twice in a sentence. It will flow better if you don't. The third sentence, college students have a lot of pressure on them being high achievers. This sentence was marked awkward because it has a dangling modifier. A dangling modifier is a grammatical term for a phrase in a sentence that does not clearly connect to a specific part of the sentence and is unclear as a result. In this example, we are not sure whether college students are high achievers and therefore have lots of pressure on them, or whether they have pressure on them to be high achievers. Do you see the difference? Try this instead. Being high achievers, college students have a lot of pressure on them. So to review, here's how we avoid awkward sentences, all right? So we've identified some of them. How can we find them and then avoid them? How can we edit them out of our writing? How can you do that for your essay? Read them aloud. If it doesn't sound right to you, then it doesn't. So trust your ear. That's the key. Trust your instincts. You know how to fix these sentences. You know how to do it. You just have to take the time, read them aloud, and listen for the changes. And be patient. Proofreading is tedious, but it's the key to everything. That's why I push you to have this rough draft done, again, as a process. And then you have a week now focusing on editing. Okay? I saw a movie once, okay, called Finding Forrester. It's kind of a cheesy movie, but in the movie, it's about an author tutoring a young writer. And he says to the young writer, you write the first draft with your heart, you write the second draft with your head. And it applies. The first one, you get all your ideas out, then you go back, your feelings, your observations, then you go back with your head and your eyes and do the editing. It's the natural process of writing. I don't want you to ever turn in the first draft of something. I want you to have a serious amount of time to do revisions. Okay? And that's why in this next week, what you want to do, you're not just going to turn in what you turned in last night as a rough draft. The idea is that goes through a process and that gets better. All right? Secondly, eliminate words. You always want to use as few words as possible and to be as direct as possible. Slow down. That's the key. Slow down. Don't rush. All right? And again, I'm a true believer that when students take their time and read sentences aloud, they will make the changes that they need to make. All right. Please let me know if any questions on this. Good luck, and let me know if you need help with anything. Have a good day, you guys. Thank you.